Hello, here we are at number 18 of a Learning Lifestyle series. Number 17 was all about burnout. So I'm hoping by now that you are relaxed and I hope you're not exhausted. When I came to share with you today number 18 of a Learning Lifestyle series, I had this sense in my heart that I had a little story for you, and I thought, I wonder what this little story is. I wasn't 100% sure what the story was until all of a sudden it came to me. So now I'm excited to share the story with you. So today I'm going to tell you a little story, and it's all about roses. A long time ago we were having a mom's retreat, and there was a very large group of moms sitting in front of me, and there was a topic under discussion that was quite serious, and the moms were getting quite upset, and I just said to them, just wait, let's stop. Let's all go for a walk in the garden. So I asked them all to stand up and go for a walk in the garden. Well, they looked a bit confused, but they did so. They all got up, and there was a lot of noise and chatter and natter as they made their way out into the garden. So when we were all gathered in the garden, I said to them, okay, ladies, please, we want complete silence now. No more speaking, no more talking about all the concerns and worries of the world. Let's now just be very, very still and quiet and take a quiet little stroll around the garden, and let's just make time to stop and smell the roses. Well, once again, I had a lot of confused looks, but even so, they started wandering around the garden. But I noticed that a lot of the moms weren't stopping to smell the roses. So I went up alongside those that were not stopping to smell the roses, and I just whispered in their ear, you must smell the roses. Just bend down and smell the roses. I must say it was a bit of a funny sight to see all these bending down moms with their noses in the roses, as it were. Well, after everybody had smelt the roses, we all gathered again back inside. And instead of just going straight back into the session that we were in on the serious topic, I had picked a rose while we were in the garden. And what I did once we were all back inside and sitting down, I passed the rose around and I asked them to all smell the rose and hand it to the next one. Well, again, I was met by a sea of confused faces looking back at me. But even so, the rose went around the room and each mom sniffed on the rose, and some of them giggled and felt a little bit silly. And the rose was back at me again. So then I said to them, okay, now we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to really inhale the aroma of this rose and bury our nose into the rose. And so the rose went around the room again, and again a little bit more giggles. But then things settled down, and there was a tremendous sense of peace and quiet and stillness. It was quite a transformation. If you can just imagine the scene before, the tension and the stress that was in the room, followed by the walk in the garden, and then the return, and now this absolute silence. It was really amazing. I was pleased because I realized that the atmosphere had completely changed, and it was exactly what it needed to be now rather than what it was before. So I asked the moms if they would share with us now. Very quietly, one by one, we'll just go around the room and just, if anybody had anything specific they would like to share about this experience. And what came from that? It was a variety of things, but let me just summarize and give it broad strokes and tell you that they said that they were at a better place of peace, that some of them said they felt happy and they weren't feeling happy at all before the event or before the walk in the garden, and others said that they had only really smelt the fragrance of the rose after they buried their nose in the rose. And so another one, actually, this was the most profound one, said that she was afraid. She doesn't know why she was afraid, but she was afraid to smell the rose in the garden. She just felt silly, and she didn't want to do it. And she didn't want to be told to smell the roses. So she was dealing with some struggles. But by the time the rose made its way around, in the second time around the room, when I encouraged them to bury their faces in the rose, she did so. And she said it was quite an incredible experience where just suddenly all those feelings that she had just felt like they just disappeared. And they were totally replaced with a sense of peace and comfort. And her biggest experience in it all was her fear was suddenly gone. And she even felt herself wondering why she'd been stressed about the things that she was stressing about before the walk in the garden. So do you know what followed from then? Is these moms decided that they wanted to go and share this with their children. And they wanted to use this example of when things were getting stressed and a lot of noise, and take them for a walk in the garden and just stop and be still. Because after all, the Word of God says we must be still and know that He is God. That's how we get to know Him, not in a state of stress and turmoil and noise and confusion. So that's what came from burying their noses in the roses. So I hope now that you are not going to be suffering from burnout, and that you're going to stop and have a cup of tea. You'll see I especially chose a beautiful rose teacup for you today to share a cup of tea with you. And I picked a rose from our garden. Actually, it was the only rose in my garden today, so I would have liked to have had a whole vase full of roses for you. So let me tell you the end of the story now. We all stopped for a cup of tea, and when we returned, we actually had a word study on fragrance and His fragrance, and how we can be a fragrance for the Lord, and how we can spread His fragrance of love and peace and joy. So I hope you have some of that fragrance, and that you enjoy your tea, and that you stop to smell the roses. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.